The rain fell in sheets of molten light over what had once been the capital of the Tethran Dominion. It was not rain at all, but the falling embers of orbital wreckage. Alien ships burning up as they entered the atmosphere, each a tomb for those who had once ruled the stars. Commander Elias Ward stood on the observation deck of the human flagship Resolute, staring through the glass as the alien skyline burned. His reflection was a ghost on the glass, eyes hardened, uniform scorched, a human silhouette watching the death of an empire that had enslaved his ancestors for 3 centuries. "They called us primitives," he murmured. Beside him, Lieutenant Yara, his communications officer, gave a tired laugh. "They still do, sir, but I think they're running out of breath." Through the window, the alien sky split apart as another dreadnought exploded. The Tethran fleet, vast, glittering, invincible, was breaking apart like glass under a hammer. Human ships, forged in hidden shipyards across a dozen liberated worlds, had torn through the alien armadas in a campaign that lasted only 9 months. Humanity had waited 300 years. Vengeance had been patient. Elias remembered the day the Tethrans came to Earth. His grandmother had told him stories. How the skies were filled with silver, how the oceans boiled under the first bombardment. The aliens had taken everything, cities, cultures, even the moon itself as a monument to their victory. And yet, in the shadows, humanity learned. They learned their enemy's language, their science, their arrogance. The aliens never realized the humans were preparing, not for peace, but for the return of fire. "Sir," Yara said softly, breaking his thoughts, "we're receiving transmissions from the planet. Civilian enclaves are surrendering. Some are begging for evacuation." Elias closed his eyes. He could still hear his father's voice, whispering the words of the resistance. "Mercy is for the free. Vengeance is for the enslaved. Send coordinates," he said at last. "We'll evacuate the civilians." Yara blinked. "Sir, they're Tethrans." "I know what they are," Elias said, "but we are not them." Outside, the sky kept burning. The broken empire of the Tethrans fell, piece by piece, and the stars beyond whispered that balance, after so many lifetimes, was being restored. The ruins of the old world smelled of ozone and ash. The air on Tetra Prime was thin and poisoned by the very weapons that had brought the empire low. In the refugee camps around Shattered Citadel, human and alien survivors watched each other across fire pits, unsure who was conqueror and who was prisoner. Elias walked among them in silence. His uniform drew stares, some fearful, some hateful. He felt neither pride nor pity. Only the weight of history pressed on his shoulders like a storm. The Resolute's medical teams had been working for days to treat the wounded. Among them was Dr. Rima Sol, a xenobiologist who had once studied under Tethran scholars before the war. Her white coat was stained with soot, but her eyes burned with an intensity that never faded. "They're dying, Commander," she said, pointing to a cluster of alien children suffering from radiation burns. "Tethran or not, they need help." Elias looked down at the children, blue-skinned, fragile, terrified. Their empire had been cruel, but these were just the offspring of soldiers who had believed their lies. He knelt and offered one his canteen. The child flinched at first, then reached for it slowly. "They were taught we drink blood," the doctor murmured. "Then let them learn otherwise," Elias said. Later, when night fell, Elias stood by the campfires, watching human and alien figures mingle in uneasy silence. The Resolute's crew had begun sharing food with the refugees. Some of the Tethrans refused, preferring starvation to humiliation. Others accepted. Slowly, the lines blurred. Yara approached him with a data slate. "Intercepted message, sir. One of the surviving Tethran warlords is rallying fleets in the Outer Rim. They call themselves the Remnant of Flame. They're swearing vengeance." Elias sighed. "Old debts don't vanish. They just wait to be repaid." The next morning, he gathered his officers beneath the shadow of a ruined alien monument. "We came here to end a war," he told them. "But if we let vengeance guide us forever, then we become what we destroyed. The galaxy doesn't need another empire. It needs peace." No one spoke, but they understood. Humanity's revenge had been righteous. Now it risked becoming hunger. Above them, the sky shimmered with the wreckage of ancient fleets. The fire they had buried was beginning to smolder again. Weeks turned to months, and the war that should have ended began anew. The remnant of flame launched brutal strikes on liberated worlds, slaughtering human settlers and defected aliens alike. They carried banners made from human skin and sang of divine retribution. Elias Ward was recalled to the front lines. His fleet was smaller now, but harder, honed by loss and conviction. Beside him, Yara and Dr. Rima had become the twin voices of his conscience, one reminding him of justice, the other of mercy. In orbit above the mining world of Keelan, the two armadas met, enemy fleet approaching. 12 capital ships, over 200 escorts, Yara reported. Elias nodded. Then let's show them what the enslaved learned from their masters. The human ships moved like wolves through the dark. Using gravity slings and stolen alien tech, they struck fast, vanishing between bursts of plasma fire. The Tethrans fought with fury, but they had forgotten how to adapt. The humans had learned from every wound, every scar left by the centuries of subjugation. As the battle raged, Elias broadcast across all channels. To the remnant of flame, this is Commander Ward of Earth. The Age of Thrones is over. The stars belong to all who can reach them. The response came in a hiss of static and venom. You think you are free, human? You are the fire we made, and fire only burns. The enemy's flagship surged forward. It was colossal, a relic of the old empire, armed with weapons that could shatter moons. Elias knew he couldn't match it in power, but he had something the aliens never did: faith. He ordered the Resolute forward, ramming speed. The bridge shuddered as alarm screamed. The crew looked at him with horror and devotion. Sir, if we collide... I know, he said quietly, but debts must be paid. The Resolute struck the alien dreadnought like a spear of light. The explosion consumed both ships, lighting the void for 100,000 kilometers. When the fire faded, the Tethran fleet was broken. The remnant scattered. Humanity had lost its commander, but gained its legend. Years later, they called it the Quiet Dawn. The last remnants of the alien superpowers had fallen, and humanity had built a fragile peace among the stars. The world of Tetra Prime had become a sanctuary, half memorial, half warning. Dr. Rima Soul walked through its rebuilt plazas with Yara, now Admiral of the Resolute successor. The monument at the center of the city bore a simple inscription: for those who chose mercy after vengeance. The commander would have hated statues, Yara said softly. Rima smiled faintly. He'd have said they belonged to the dead. But legends belong to the living. In orbit above them, human and alien ships patrolled together under the banner of the Coalition of the Free. The alliance was uneasy but real, proof that the cycle of conquest had ended, even if only for a generation. Children played in the square, some human, some Tethran, indistinguishable in laughter. Fire no longer fell from the sky. It burned now only in the hearts of those who remembered. Rima placed a hand on the monument's base. We repaid our debts, she whispered. Now we just have to make sure we don't create new ones. The wind carried the scent of new rain. Not ash, not blood, just rain. Far above, in the cold reaches of space, the wreckage of the Resolute drifted forever, a silent guardian of peace. And in that silence, the stars seemed to whisper one last truth. The fire that once destroyed had become the light that guided.